Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Salt and Burn This. My name is Sammy.
I'm Valerie.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
I know. You know what you forgot to say?
What?
That this is a supernatural rewatch podcast.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That is what this is.
It's been so long you've forgotten what it is we're doing. Well, I learned a little truth about myself today.
Okay.
Nothing mind-blowing. But you know how there's instances where like the real you comes out in certain moments in life, and one is like when you're genuinely scared, like what noises you make, whether you fight or flight when you're genuinely scared.
Oh, okay.
Well, something along that lines. I was just coming back from walking the dog, and I have taken to walking the dog with like an electric fly swatter just because the deer flies out here in the country are pretty thick. And I feel like a real badass when I'm out there because it's like, like yay. So beside the point, went on a nice long walk with the dog, came back, and as I was walking up the steps to the porch to come inside, something stung me. And the words that came out of my mouth in that moment were so true and pure because the pain was so intense.
Yeah.
I did say, ow, motherfucker, and then proceeded to swear at the bug as it flew away.
Yeah.
And called it son of a bitch, motherfucker. So like in that moment, you think that you as a kid, you swear because you think that, you think it makes you sound tough or older and stuff like that. Nope. The pain, like real life pain and real life instant, was Valerie will say motherfucker. So it doesn't matter who's around, just so you know, that's what's going to come out of my mouth.
I believe
Yep.
there are actually scientific studies that show it actually makes your pain feel better when you curse really loudly.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if maybe it's not specifically cursing. I think they use that as an example in the thing, but it's more so like instead of being like, oh, okay,
no, let it out.
Don't worry. It's just like the outburst of whatever comes to your mind is going to make you physically feel better.
Literally, I'm going to say it did make me feel better. But I don't know, because it was pretty literally shaking my fist and yelling at this bug as it flew away. And then ran inside and got some ice.
Well, I may learn something about myself today. I think that I accidentally took 2 of my prescription medications.
Uh-oh.
Which are a stimulant. I mean, it's a low dose stimulant, so it won't be like a heart attack inducing if I did accidentally take 2, but
are you going to clean the house?
I might, which would be a good thing. Because it was one of those like, it's like, did I take it? I can't remember if I took it. I don't think I did. And so then I took it. And then after a while, I'm like kind of like, whoa.
I think I did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll keep an eye on you for some sort of like energized burst, and you keep an eye on me for some sort of anaphylactic reaction to whatever this bug was.
Because it also was, when I couldn't get this mic to work, I was like very intense about it. I may or may not have flung the microphone across the room. Which would guarantee it not working next time.
I was going to say that could be part of the problem.
No, it was not working before I threw it across the room.
Well, that doesn't make it work any better. I've learned
it makes me feel better.
Hey, dear science, what we learned today.
Having temper tantrums makes us feel better. Season 3, Episode 13, Ghostfacers. Strap in for the scariest hour in the history of television. Ghost hunting dweebs and reality show wannabes Ed and Harry invade the same haunted house Sam and Dean are investigating. The results are unreal. Written by Ben Undland and directed by Phil Screecha. Unpopular opinion here. I fucking love these guys. I love this episode.
I loved this episode too. I absolutely adored this episode. I I went back and watched old Ghost Hunter episodes
Yeah.
because of this. I was like,
Yeah.
and they got it bang
They
on.
really
I will
did.
say they got it bang on.
Mm-hmm.
I loved every part of this episode. I also love dweeb. I haven't heard that word in a
Yeah, I
million
know.
years.
No, I know that these guys get so much hate in the fandom. Like I know whenever I see, like for instance, a Reddit post that might say, they're doing a semi poll, like what are the episodes that you always skip? And like the Ghostfacers ones are always in the list somewhere. People are like, I hate those guys, but I don't understand the hate. I really don't.
I wonder if they think it's a distraction from the Winchesters, because the Winchesters aren't the
Probably.
focus of the episode. It's the
Yeah.
Ghostfacers.
Yeah. And they do kind of show them up as far as humor. They pull the spotlight, they're just
Yeah.
like they got like good energy, they're good improv artists, and they really hone in on
Yeah.
like they're super into their craft, but also like the biggest dorks ever.
Right. Right. But they're not the Winchesters.
Yeah.
And that's what people tune in to see. I honestly think that's why the spinoff with the women didn't work.
Maybe.
It's not because it was anti-women. It's that because it wasn't the Winchesters. And
Yeah.
people want to watch the Winchesters, which, by the way, I would have totally tuned into that show because I loved those characters.
I know, I did too.
And I also loved their relationship with the Winchesters.
Yeah.
So the fact that people don't like the relationship with the Ghostfacers, I mean, I don't know why they don't like the Ghostfacers, but I would just, anyway, you're right. They're funny, they're adorable,
Mm-hmm.
and they're good foils for Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
It's really funny because it shows Sam and Dean as like the adults in the room, which is not always the case with them. There's always somebody else who's like boys,
Yeah.
idiots. I never watched the spinoff, the Ghostfacer spinoff. I didn't watch that.
Is
that
there
didn't
a
pull me.
Ghostfacer spinoff?
I think you mentioned like they did a web series or something.
I theorized that they did a web series because around this time is like when webisodes of things were like a big deal.
Right.
At the time I wasn't really aware of them. So that would be my guess. And also on the DVD, there's kind of like extra footage of their confessionals, like because they allowed a lot of improv in this. It was just like go for it, just do your thing. And so the guys who played Ed and Harry and some of the other ones too, they just kind of
rolled with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just did
yes and yeah.
Anyway, so they did a lot of that, and so they put those extra confessionals on the extras of the DVD. I'm sure it's probably on YouTube somewhere, but you should, if you like the Ghostfacers, you should go look them up because they are kind of funny.
I kind of wish I didn't see any outtakes from this, and I looked around for some, and I wonder if they just kept those close to the vest because they were so improvisational.
Probably.
Because I would have loved to have seen just moments of where somebody broke, like the scene just went too far.
Yeah.
And they broke. I would have loved to seen those outtakes. So another thing about this episode, I mean, we haven't really gotten into it yet, but I compared it to Ghost Hunters. And stylistically, not only scripting of it, the camera movements, the actual editing of it was all Ghost Hunters. Some people called it Blair Witch. And I'm gonna shoot that down right now, and I'm gonna say there was no Blair Witch in this. Yes, there was handheld cameras, and there was first person and camera view stuff.
I'd say that's the only similarity is that I think because Blair Witch is shot like a Ghost Hunters episode, like that's where they pulled inspiration from, or anything that was like a ghost hunting related. There's a lot of shows like that. I don't even know all the names of them, but there are so many. There's a whole channel on digital cable dedicated to like paranormal shows like this or like Ghost Dateline type of stuff. But
they also started a whole nother Ghost Hunter series. Like one of the guys decided to pick it back up again after they went their separate ways. One of them was like, oh wait, I'll do it again. I'm like, oh my God, you guys, you've already been called out for the hoax, for perpetuating hoaxes on people. And now you want to go back to it.
Yeah, I think probably people don't care. They're like, I don't care. I just want to, it's fun. Okay, So let's start this episode. In the recap, a very basic recap. It's a monster montage. We're kind of revisiting Dean's deal because remember, this episode was the first one back after the writer's strike. The last episode aired, hold on, I have the dates, February 21st of 2008, and this one aired April 24th of 2008. Wow. So that's 2 months. So they're just kind of reminding us of the very, very, very basic things that we're dealing with, which is they're fighting monsters, and Dean is also, got a deal
on a timeline to that, right? Yeah. Right.
And then it's just a bunch of scenes from the Hellhounds episode where
it jumps into Ghostfacers. So it's like all the stuff that we saw with them.
Yes, in the last episode we saw them, which was in season 1, I think. I think it was season 1 the last time that we've seen them.
Or Hell House. Yeah, I think you're right. You're right.
Yes, we get into the title splash early, but then it glitches and changes into Ghostfacers.
I thought that was really interesting. So yeah. Supernatural title splash, cut, Ghostfacers. And so we're overtaken by Ed and Harry, basically in this masterpiece theater setup. The two of them are sitting in front of a fake fireplace. They're sitting in these two burlap style grandpa chairs, wearing a bow tie and an ascot. Yes, they've designed their own mood lighting with a rotostat.
I know.
to turn it dimmer to make it scarier, and they're doing this one-on-one with the cameras.
Yeah,
and it's this unsolicited reel that they've sent to producers. They even call it that. They're like, if you've received this unsolicited reel.
Yeah, these outfits are fantastic because it's this weird, we need a tux, but we don't have a tux. So what can we pull together to make it look like a tux? And there's also something kind of like a smoking jacket. I think Ed is wearing a smoking jacket type of thing. Harry's holding a snifter.
Of something.
It's we need this to look super, super classy. What do we got? I also like how meta they get. With they actually mentioned something about the writer's strike.
Yes.
This is your cure to the writer's strike. We know that you're fed up with it, and who needs writers when we got reality TV?
TV. Strap in for the scariest night in television.
Yes.
The scariest night of your life. Now they did one of the best camera takes here, and I forget who it was. I think it was Ed. Looks over his shoulder at the kids. The camera moves, so he looks over his shoulder now at the camera and does this look. Yeah. And that is a look that Jensen does over and over again in outtakes. He does this look over his shoulder, take to the camera, and I'm like, oh my God, too funny. So they're trying to make themselves be heroic and spooky, and this is the answer to all of your troubles. Here we go.
Yep. That launches into the Ghostfacers theme song.
Yep. Their whole title role.
I adore this theme song, and I think it's honestly a little bit genius.
We go into the kitchen until it gets hot.
It's we stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot. Oh. We face the ghosts when others will not. It's Ghostfacers, I get it. Face the ghost.
Face the ghost. I think Edlin
Ben Udlin wrote it.
Ben Udlin.
In fact, he came in with the pitch, and he was just hey, remember those guys from season 1? I think that we should do them again, but now they want to do a reality show, and they have a theme song, and here's the theme song, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What do you think? And Kripke and the team are you had us at theme song. We got it. This is amazing. Brilliant. Genius. Full stop.
Let's go. Oh my God. It's very clever because
perfect balance between super lame and cheesy and okay. That's actually a fun.
You remember how excited I was when you played me our theme song for the first time?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, it's us. Yes, it's awesome. And I love their title role. And it's all different, action shots of the Ghostfacer team setting up stuff or, going after ghosts. And it's the exact same thing as Ghost Hunters. It's, and I love everyone's everyone has multiple titles under their names. They're not just like, Ed, producer. It's like Ed, producer and explosive expert or something. It's like, what?
I also like that they put in credits for Sam and Dean.
Yeah. Now, I answered my own question after I wrote this question down. So it gets answered later.
Okay.
But I was like, so in this opening credits of Ghostfacers, there's footage of Sam and Dean. Yeah. And I was like, so is that footage from, when they were in Texas? Or was that footage from like what's happening today? And I'm like, and I couldn't really tell from the footage, honestly, because it's also shaky and blurry and dark hallways with lights at the end, so you can't see. So that was a question that I wrote down that I'll answer later. I loved at the end. I'm sorry to keep talking about how genius this was. With the end of the Ghostfacer title credits, it shows like the team in front of their van. It says Ghostfacers on the van. They have all of their road cases stacked in front of the van, and every single one of them has that crossed arm pose with their foot up on a road case, like a la Captain Morgan.
Yeah.
But Maggie, the one girl in the group, has picked the tallest road case to try to sling her foot up on. So she's literally like
super
leaning
awkwardly
backwards.
high.
Yes, super awkward. And then there's Harry, who can't figure out how to cross his arms in front of his body. But they kept that in. Like, that's part of it. They couldn't. He's like, should I cross him like this? Should I come down?
They didn't have enough time or money to reshoot that.
Like, shoot it, or even edit that out. Oh, God. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Okay, so then after the theme song, the show starts. And it starts off kind of like a Making the Band episode almost, where they're like loading up the truck, packing all the equipment, and also introducing members of the crew.
As in a narration. Yeah.
Yes, because they were just two lone wolves, but two lone wolves need other wolves.
And luckily, their jobs at Kinko's allow them to get out of work by 6 every day. So they can.
So these other part of the wolf pack are Spruce, who is the camera guy, who is 15/16 Jew and 1/16 Cherokee. Corbett, who is the intern / cook, also very infatuated with Ed. So ruggedly handsome Ed. Harry's okay. And Maggie, who is the adopted sister of Ed. I also love the, there's like voiceover over some footage, but some of this footage are Harry and Ed pantomiming slow motion.
While cars are like whizzing by in real time in the background.
Oh, I gotta check my watch.
I'm not wearing a watch. And one of them actually like kind of stumbles because he's trying so hard to walk slow, and then he tries to recover in slow motion from the stumble. Very funny. So we are taken into the Ghostfacers headquarters, which is like a garage in someone's house, but they've got it all decked out to be their Ghostfacer headquarters. They've got a Coven poster on the wall, which gets highlighted numerous times in this episode. And I also love that there's a copier machine in the in the garage, but they've got the whiteboard set up. They've got table and chairs. It's like patio table and chairs. This totally reminded me of that time when we had that house in Hawaii that had no furniture in it.
Yes, and so we were just like getting donations and borrowed like anything that we
literally
could.
Had like patio furniture, which we ended up keeping like outside on the patio instead of bringing inside. We had a couch.
Maybe. I know we had a couch. It was like a rent-a-center couch or something that the cat tore up.
Destroyed. Oh my gosh. But I just remember we got into this house. We're like, this is great. There's nothing in this house. And we ended up having all our meetings just sitting on the floor, watching the cat destroy this rented. So they're having their nightly meetings. They're discussing a case that they want to do, a haunted house they want to go and film.
The Morton house.
It's super haunted every leap year. It's the most haunted house in America.
And no one's ever stayed the night. But that's all about to change.
All about to change. So we're going to go. So they decide that's what they have to do. They have to get their stuff together and they're going to go
Yep,
film this house
their
on
mission
here.
is like filming the house.
And I love that just before they, break for the night, like suddenly the camera starts shaking and, there's this like fake jump scare, and turns out it's just like Ed's dad opening the garage door to come home. I just love the whole, Dad, come on.
It's like, of course they still live with their
Of course,
parents.
they still live at home.
Now we get into phase 2, infiltration, where the crew goes up to the Morton house. It's very serious and dramatic. I love all of these beats of like the scary house clips that are overexposed or negative exposure. It's like, dun, dun, dun. So they go up there, they have bolt cutters. I kind of love that. Didn't you get a permit for this? Oh yeah, permits. Good idea for next time.
Next time. And then it's like, car, and everyone kind of ducks down because you hear like rock music playing, and of course you hear
rumble,
the
rumble,
Impala,
rumble.
right? And I love that like the car drives by slow, and then it drives off. And I love that it was Harry who's like, it's not the cops, just Hicks.
Yes. So then they get into the house, and there's like a nice little montage of them setting up the eagle's nest.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? Did they unknowingly call it the eagle's nest?
I don't think so, because someone even says something about Mein Führer.
Mein Führer.
Like a few seconds
and it's
later.
the Jew. It's
so the Jew must have known. This is
what
like,
that meant,
okay, and then didn't say anything about it, and the other guys are just like going along with it.
So they end up setting up cameras all over the house, just the way the ghost hunters do, to catch anything in any room. And in the eagle's nest, there's cameras that are just running all the time.
Yeah.
And each of them also have either a handheld camera or Corbett has a headlamp camera.
Yeah,
like
a couple of them do. They have kind of like a GoPro maybe that you could like wrap around your head.
Before GoPro,
right.
Yeah.
I have to say, this is a really impressive setup that they got going on.
Yeah.
Like they really like put cameras a little bit everywhere, like in every single room, every floor.
They've got their EMF detectors, their EVPs, infrared, capabilities.
Night vision.
Yep. So the only thing that was missing, honestly, were some of the ghost hunter things that are like data gatherers and little tricks of the of the trade.
Yeah.
But maybe that was
they probably didn't have the money for that.
Right.
They only had money for like 17,000 cameras.
I know, right?
And microphones and night vision and all of that. Okay, so then they're like all suited up in their camera gear. They have their little hype huddle, ready to face.
Ghostfacers on 3.
Yep. Now we're ready for phase 3, FaceTime. They break up into teams. Ed and Corbett are on one team, and Harry, Spruce, and Maggie are in another.
I love that their EMF detectors make the exact same noise as Sam and Dean's, even though they're totally different devices. I was like, hey, I guess that's your standard EMF noise.
Yeah.
So off they go, and we're seeing clips of their individual adventures as they're looking. They're just going throughout the house, kind of calling to the spirits and seeing if there's anything out there. And there's a number of my favorite moments in this episode, and so I had to stop writing great like favorite moments. Yeah. So this is like one of my favorite moments coming up, where Harry finds a closed door and he goes to try to kick it in, but he can't. And so you hear Maggie say, "Turn the knob."
I know. Well, so he's just like kind of tenderly tapping the door with his toe. Like he's not kicking it. He's just like, boop,
like boop, boop, boop. Turn the knob. So Maggie turns the knob. Now the door's open. And then he proceeds to kick the door and go charging into the room. And then they have another typical like ghost hunter moment where somebody sees something. We don't see what it is as an audience member. We just hear them go, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And then you see cameras running. Yeah, running. And so we're like, what is it? What is it? And it turns out it's nothing. It was a dead rat. Not even moving. I mean, literally a dead rat on the floor.
So Phil Screecha, the director, threw that rat in there without telling Harry. That reaction was legitimate.
The running and screaming?
Yes.
That's awesome. So it wasn't just laying on the floor. or was it?
No,
I mean,
it was laying on the floor, but Phil placed it there without telling Harry that it was going to
so
be
he
there.
gotcha.
So like,
So he actually
yes, he
thought
was
there was
supposed
a
to like
rat.
go open the door and stuff, but I'm not quite sure how scripted or structured all of this was because all of the actors were filming it. It
Right.
was taped exactly like a reality show, and like they were the ones that had the cameras and stuff.
Can you imagine how long it must have taken to edit this episode?
Oh my God.
I mean, all those cameras, all shooting at the same time, different angles,
Yeah.
different reactions. It's like, what are you looking for? Like, how do
Right.
you stop? How do you, I
don't
can't
know.
imagine how
I
long
don't
that
know.
must have taken to edit.
I don't know.
So there's so much of this footage of them just like freaking themselves out.
Yes.
So you hear like all that like scared, heavy breathing,
Yeah.
And I mean, even Corbett, like you hear him and he's breathing. He's like, okay, that's just a branch. I saw a branch outside the window.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. And as he's trying to calm himself down, he turns and he sees a figure at the end of the hall. So, which is a mini jump scare because they weren't expecting it. We weren't expecting it. And of course, it's Sam and Dean who come in, pretending to be cops. They've got their deep voices on, and show me your ID. What are you kids doing here? And so enter our heroes, Sam and Dean.
Yes. And it only goes so far because Ed suddenly recognizes them as,
Hey.
wait a minute. We were there. We know you. They're not cops. Totally blowing their cover. And it takes a second for our boys to, figure it out before Sam is like, oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
Or, oh, bleep. A lot of cursing that is bleeped out in this episode.
We finally get to hear them curse, sort of.
Yeah.
I also love that not only are they beeped, but like a little Ghostfacer skull is like blurbed out onto their mouths,
so you can't
see
read their lips, but you can
oh my God, too funny. Yeah, and so it's Sam who's like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's these guys.
Yeah.
And then Dean catches up just a few minutes later and is like, shit.
Yes.
So he gets bleeped out.
And Ed is trying to be tough, staking his claim at the house. They were there first. And then Dean totally overpowers him by literally physically pushing him up against the wall and be like, get out.
Get out. You guys have to leave. I also love that that's Harry's go-to move is well, we were here first. That's his stake to the house.
Yeah.
We were here first. Well, in that small confrontation, because for some, I don't know how Harry had the Ed. Sorry, I keep.
I know.
Flipping them.
I do too. But because I feel like it's like Ed is the hairy one. So
right, and Harry is the clean-shaven one, right? So he pokes back at Dean before Dean like shoves him up against the wall. He's like, listen here, chisel chest.
Yes.
I'm like, again, not so good with the insults.
No, because it's like listen here, you handsome devil. So yeah, Dean is asking Ed where the rest of his team is. Cue, the clips where the rest of the team are. So they're on the other floor. They're freaking out about like their EMF is spiking, the temperature's
cameras
dropping.
Are glitching. Yep.
Yes. And then all of a sudden, a man who looks like he's from the 40s, maybe, dressed in a very clean-cut suit, a fedora, the glasses. He's like talking about money, how he doesn't have it. And then you hear a gunshot. Gets shot somehow, he
see it,
physically gets shot, and then he like disappears. And of course all the kids are like, what?
While that's happening, Sam and Dean are still downstairs, and they're trying to get the group out of the house for one thing.
Yeah.
And saying, look, people did actually go missing. They stayed the night and they did go missing. So this is something is actually here, and we need to get you out.
Yeah, here's all of my research. There's this person, there's this person, there's this person from half a century. And Ed is like, oh wow, this is really good.
That whole research thing they didn't do. Yeah. But all this is interrupted by screaming from upstairs of, oh my God. And like the entire rest of the team comes like stampeding down the stairs into the room like, we got the dead silence when they see Sam and Dean in the room. And I love this camera cut because camera goes first to Sam, Dean, Sam, Dean.
And then Harry.
Yep. aren't these the two assholes from Texas?
Yes.
Which the fandom says is a total double meaning, that not only was the last time these guys were all together was in Texas, but also that Jensen and Jared are from
Oh
Texas.
yeah, they're both from
Their
Texas.
big chance to be like, these two assholes from Texas. So the group then decides to, they want to show the footage. They hook up the cameras to a computer, and they show everyone the footage that they just shot of this ghost-like guy, the good-looking, sharp, well-dressed man getting shot. They're like, we got it. We are like,
Yeah, like,
woohoo.
holy shit, I can't believe we actually got it.
Yeah. But Sam and Dean, as they watch this, they're like, this isn't the thing.
Yeah,
this isn't what's in this house.
They scoot off over to the side and start discussing things.
They're like, are we wrong? First they're like, did we get this case wrong? You know, and then they're like, no, this is a death echo. Something else is happening here.
But of course, somebody on the Ghostfacers crew has like sneakily started shooting them off to the side.
Yeah,
which is
I'm
like,
assuming it's Spruce. Yeah.
Yeah, but a perfect like reality show type of thing where someone on the camera is always like looking for. It's like, oh, I
need to get what's this over here. Yeah, and he's like, so what's a death echo? Because he was totally eavesdropping on them. And while explaining, Sam and Dean still trying to get the group to leave. Like, still, this is not what this isn't the issue. What you guys just filmed, this is not it.
Yeah. So first off, a death echo is just a ghost that's kind of trapped in a loop, reliving its death over and over again. But those aren't really like, those are harmless, essentially. Like, they're not the ones that's causing all the hauntings and the missing people. So what is actually going on? So this is a big deal. Everybody, we got to leave. All right, come on, kids.
We can talk about it outside. Yeah, exactly. Like, we can keep it. We'll buy you some ice cream. We can talk about this outside. We just can't stay in the house.
Yeah.
And then as they're like, wait, what about our cameras? Hey, where's Corbett? Okay, so Corbett has wandered off and is trying to reach out to the spirits on his own. And Corbett, of course, is this sweet guy who read about the or saw the Ghostfacers putting up posters at the mall and was like, hey, where do ghosts come from? A little bit of foreshadowing there. And then he's like, look, that's how he joined the Ghostfacers. But now he's like making them instant coffee. That's like his job, which I felt so bad about. He wanted to be. Everyone
needs an intern, and
everyone needs an intern. I know, and he's excited to be there.
He's excited to be there. He's in love with Ed. Harry's aware that he's in love with Ed.
But anyway, so he's this really sweet guy. So I find it interesting that he's the first one to go off on his own to try to communicate with the dead. He's not trying to capture. Yes, exactly. One thing about this actor, did you recognize him?
He looked like I forget his real name, but Sweets from Bones. I know it's not him, but he looks very similar to him. So that's kind of who I kept thinking of, but I don't know this actor.
Did you watch Schitt's Creek?
Not all the way through yet, no. I've started it and I need to get through it, but...
Okay. Dustin Mulligan is his name.
Oh, dear.
And he plays, I know, right? He plays Ted the vet, the veterinarian on Schitt's Creek. Pivotal character. Once they pick him up and launch him.
Okay.
Yep. And it's funny because he said something on Ghostfacers, and it just the way he said it, I'm like, oh my God, he's totally said that on Schitt's Creek too. He's like, well, there you go, or something like that. I was like, oh,
yeah,
it's Ted. But anyway, so he also had a bit on the relaunch of 90210. I didn't watch that. Sweet guy. So he's off on his own, trying to contact the ghosts.
Yes.
Which, again, why do people wander off on their own?
I asked that so many times during this episode, especially knowing what they knew. But anyway, it gets dark. He's like, oh, maybe I'll turn on my night vision. Takes off his little camera, turns it on, and then big scare here, where he's like, oh, there we go, Mr. Happy Smiling Corbett. But behind him is super scary Ghost Man.
Giant, super scary Ghost Man.
And it's scary because it's night vision, which automatically gives like just a scary filter over
Grainy, green, dark.
And then everyone's eyes are glowy.
Yes.
and Corbett doesn't know that he's there, so he's just all like, "Dee-dee-dee-dee-doo," not realizing that
No.
giant scary ghost is behind him. So
'Cause
it's like,
even before,
oh!
and even before he did that, he's like, "Oh, look, my flashlight's out."
Yeah.
It's like all the signs of something happening. He's like, "Oh, well, let me just."
Yeah.
And so, as an audience member, we're like, "Ah, it's
Stop!
behind you!"
Yes.
Yeah, and not Corbett.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
Corbett.
Yes.
So the group is still flustering around downstairs.
Oh, everyone
know.
is just like chaos. Corbett, oh my god,
And then
what's going on?
And they hear him scream. You hear
Yep.
Corbett scream for help. He isn't just like, he's screaming, help me,
Yes,
help me.
because he is now being literally dragged by his feet
Yeah.
by this giant scary guy.
Down a flight of stairs, down hallways, and just screaming, help me, help me.
Yep.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah. And then a little bit later, like after they're screaming around and then they reconvene at the Eagle's Nest, there's another timestamp that says something about like 12:04. And I think it was 12:04 that they just kind of all pause and stop. Was that right?
It's kind of like they all weirdly ended up back together again. Because it seemed to me that they all ran in kind of separate directions, but all ended up back in the end. We're a little confused by the fact that they were all back in the same room again together.
Yes, but there was like a pause, and I don't know, I didn't have any headphones in or anything, but it felt like maybe there was like a very subtle sound effect that happened at that time. Maybe I'm imagining it.
Okay.
But also you hear Corbett scream like really loud and echoey. So there was something special about 12:04, which they never really explain.
Go back to.
You know, once they reconvene back at the Eagle's Nest, and the group is like trying to look in their various cameras that they've posted. It's like, where is he? Let's check this floor. Let's check this room. Blah blah blah. Sam and Dean are back like in the entryway, arguing. Because it's just like, oh, let's go to the Morton house. Let's like have a little Grand Canyon expedition. It'll be great. And now we're stuck.
And you're gonna die in 2 months, but guess what? Tonight you're gonna die. You're gonna die tonight.
Yeah, it's
because
like,
you wanted to do this.
It's past 12:04 p.m. a.m. And now we're stuck. And Sam takes a chair and throws it at the door.
Smashes it against the door.
Chair breaks, but the door does nothing. But this chair breaking action is what the crew goes like, whoa, what is happening? Meanwhile, of course, Spruce or Maggie has, been eavesdropping on this as well.
Again, yeah. So Sam and Dean now take that moment to say, hey, it's past midnight. All the doors, all the windows, any way to get out of this house, they've been sealed.
Yep.
And the group is like, what do you mean? Supernaturally sealed. Whatever is in here doesn't want us to leave. It's got us.
Yes. It must have just been like midnight because now it was officially leap year day, February 29th. Maybe that's what it all was.
But then why stop at 12:04? Why then remind us that it's 12:04?
Because it was past midnight, maybe. I really don't know. But maybe.
I need my answer, Sammy.
Maybe this was like a Ghostfacers thing, like, oh, just so you know, it's past midnight. It's now 12:04 in their editing, process.
Okay.
So then Spruce's cam goes on another fritz, which they later call like a surge. His camera starts going like really like glitchy, almost like matrixy a little bit. The temperatures drop. And then all of a sudden there's another figure.
Right.
A different figure from the first one. And it's kind of like this kind of scruffy guy in an overcoat. He's kind of drunk, maybe. He's just kind of like stumbling around, wandering around. Yeah. Sam and Dean are like, is this the guy that you saw? And it's like, no, this is a different guy.
Different one.
Dean rushes up to him and just starts screaming in his face. You're like, hey, buddy, hey, buddy.
Wake up. Wake up. He's trying to distract the echo out of its loop.
Yes.
Which they've done before in a previous episode. That when the ghost runs into the street, stops them, when they were driving, that whole woman who thought her husband was still alive, but her husband wasn't, died in a car crash. You don't remember that episode?
I remember that episode, but I don't understand how
she was a death echo.
This is the first time they mentioned death echo
Is it?
Yes, because Ben Unland was like the one who made it up. He's like, there is no lore on like Death Echo. This is just like something kind of like a technical jargon thing that like ghost people would say. Like he made this whole thing up for this episode. I think that one was just but I do see what you're saying because she is reliving her death over and over and over again. But she's
Yeah.
not, it's not in the same way because she was interacting with them, with Sam and Dean. You know,
Right.
it wasn't just like
yeah.
her in that shed
Loop by
or
herself.
whatever.
Okay. Huh.
Or no, she died in the car crash, didn't she?
Because the guy is the ghost of the man she hit with the car killed her over and over and over again. So she kept reliving.
But they were but I think she died in the car crash. That was her death. And then she started like haunting the road, and so did he. And then he started killing her. They were both ghosts, and he's just like torturing her because she couldn't remember that she was a ghost.
Right. Okay.
Which is, I feel like it's a little bit different because if she were a Death Echo, she would just be like in the car getting crashed over and over and over again.
Why do I think? Okay, I believe you.
But I understand the similarities. I can feel the similarities between.
Okay, maybe they've mentioned Death Echoes before. Like, you know, they always go down there. No, okay. Rats.
Now, this was specifically like, he was just like, oh, let's just make up a thing called a Death Echo.
Okay. Well, good for him because it's something that stuck with me that I totally thought.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. Like, it's very imaginative and I love it. And that's why there's like no real research on, oh, this is the supernatural spin on what the real thing is, because it is a supernatural spin.
Okay, well, I bought it. Wow, 100%.
Yeah, so did I. So did I.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, Sam is explaining to the crew what Dean is doing, trying to snap him out of the loop, which will then kind of release him from this torture of being killed over and over again. And who knows what happens after that. But.
I love in this moment that like Dean, Maggie's asking them like, what's happening? You know, like, why are you doing this? And Dean's like, I don't have time for this. And he's, you know, trying to get the ghost to unloop. Sam becomes bedside Sam and is like gently explaining death loops loops and death echoes.
Yes, and processes. And I wrote here, it's just like Sam and Dean are kind of like the dads of the crew because they have all this knowledge, right? Like they're living, breathing, you know, journals, dad's journal, like mentoring these kids, or these dweebs, you know, throughout the right thing. So anyway, while Dean is screaming at him, and also Sam explains it doesn't really work if you don't have a personal connection to the ghosts.
Yeah.
Then the drunk, stumbly Echo guy all of a sudden like kind of turns around at the sound of a train that's behind him. And then you see his eyes get wide and you hear the train, boom.
Boom, guy gets hit by a train.
Yeah, and he gets like blasted into the other end of the room, but then disappears. There's no physical train there. It's just the guy being hit by the train.
I just want to point out that at 21 minutes and 35 seconds into this episode, we see the deer head.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yep. I wrote that down a little later because it's then like more of those like negative exposure, scary clips, beats, you know, like, dun, 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 dun. There's a deer head and a bear head.
There's or a badger or something.
It's some sort of stuffed head.
Yeah, there's a lot of taxidermy in this house.
Yes. Because after that, they're like walking through the house, you know, searching for Corbett, and Sam and Dean are explaining more.
Well, they're no longer.
I put more to youngins, but I couldn't read the word youngin. I was just like, what is he explaining? So they're kind of like, okay, so because the Death Echo relives his death over and over again, it's usually in the place where it died.
Or so where their bodies are.
Why are they there? Why are they here? Because obviously there's no trains running through the house.
Right.
Because ghosts, you know, because Death Echoes are ghosts and they haunt where they died. So then they find a room of stuff.
The homeowner. Yeah. And the Ghostfacers are like, you know, we should be looking for Corbett, but Sam and Dean are like, we need to find out why Corbett was taken, what took him, you know, this is what we do.
Yes.
And you're right. In this one room, they find a certificate of work that this guy, the previous homeowner, Daggett, was a janitor at a hospital.
The Gamble Hospital, the Gamble General Hospital, is
Oh
a
my
nice little
God,
Easter egg
Sarah
for Sarah Gamble.
um, and they also found like C rations, and
Mhm.
so this guy was, and a shut-in. He ate the same thing every
Yeah, he's
day.
got a
C
booklet for
rations.
surviving an atomic attack, and they're like, oh, he's an optimist, which I just heard about optimists somewhere. I don't remember if it was watching something or reading something, but it's like those cult members, that think that the world is going to end.
Oh, I thought that was them being sarcastic, like, oh, an optimist, how to survive a nuclear.
A capital O optimist, I think, is a
Is
cult.
somebody who builds like a bomb shelter in their basement type of person?
Let me look it up. Real quick. I think because remember when I talked about watching that Mormon show on Netflix? It's called like Keep Sweet and Obey, and it's about this weird offshoot of Mormon religion, but they're like a cult. Where they like marry 75 women. Like one guy marries like a bunch of women because that's like the main goal. It's like as many wives as possible.
Yeah.
And the women, like, that's all they have to look forward to is being married. But I think I got into like a weird rabbit hole of cults and things because I don't know, cults fascinate me. Yeah, because I thought it was kind of like what Kimmy Schmidt is based off of.
Oh, right.
But there's a name for that kind of group.
Female are strong as hell.
Maybe they were being sarcastic. That's going to be like my task for the day. Just trying to find.
She says, jiggling her leg.
Yes. Okay, so I may have been wrong. I'll take that back. I don't think that they were referencing a type of cult, or maybe they got the name of the cult wrong. But yeah, we'll just go with they were being sarcastic because he's got like all of these C rations, the atomic book, the surviving an atomic attack. They have a taxidermy textbook which explains all of the animal heads, including the deer head around. They also find a box of toe tags.
Ew. I love that though when Dean finds this because it's in like a metal tin chest or whatever, and as Dean's pulling it out of the safe, the area that they found it, I forget who it is, but it's probably Spruce is up there with not the camera, or someone's there with the EMF.
Yeah,
and Dean stops
they put it next to Dean.
Next to Dean, and Dean just gives him a look of too far.
Yeah,
get that out of my face.
I feel like I see this all the time, either in like a GIF or a meme or a clip. I feel like that image, that exact scene, that image of like someone holding up an EMF detector to him and him just like looking like, what do you think you're doing?
It's just funny that it's one of like basically one of their devices being used on them, which happens a lot in later seasons.
Yeah.
But yes, I loved that moment. He's just like, no, too far. Yes. So yes, toe tags, and they read the names of the toe tags, and it's like, this guy was hit by a train. This guy was shot in a robbery. This guy was, and I love that they're like, ew. And then as the group slowly figures it out,
slowly, it takes a while because they're like, so death echoes, they haunt, where their bodies are. So the bodies are here.
You brought them home. Ew. I was right there with them. I was just like, ew.
Yeah.
Ew. Yeah. I mean, even just touching the toe tags, I was like, ew. And while they're recovering from their ews, they're like, where's Maggie? Once again, wandering off on your own.
Do they not learn?
So, but she's out there, with her camera, and it starts glitching. She's like, it's okay. It's just and she sees like taxidermy, which scares her.
There's like no less than 3 jump scares that happen here. It's pretty amazing. There's like she gets scared by taxidermy. She gets scared by her reflection in the mirror. Or like the flash, the camera light, is flashing against her in the mirror. And then the worst, and this actually made me jump even, was when she turns around and Dean is standing right there.
With the Dean face. But as they're gathering back together again, the EMF starts going, rear, and somebody says something big is coming. and things start rumbling. So I think it's another death echo, like it's a train coming through or something like that. But like everything shakes, you hear this clunk, and then everything stops. And everyone looks around like, phew, we didn't see anything. Where's Sam?
He disappears, like literally right in front of, like the camera's on both of them the whole time. And in between one of the glitches, it's like Sam is there and then he's gone.
Just his flashlight. So the clunk you heard was the sound of his flashlight hitting the ground. Now Dean is yelling for Sam, in his very Dean way. Sam! Sammy! And then the group starts yelling for Corbett again. So now, two of their people are gone and there's a bit more panic. In the meantime, it's Harry. No, it's Ed.
Yes, no, Harry. Clean shaven Harry.
Yes, Ed and Maggie are like comforting each other.
Yes.
Like, it's okay, we're gonna be okay.
Very intimately.
And then they start kissing, and you can hear whoever is filming them giggling and starts like, bow, chicka, bow, wow. So he knows what he's filming, what he's stumbled across. And then in comes Ed.
Yes.
And sees his adopted sister, kissing Harry, and this turns into are you banging my sister? Or something like that. And here's what I love in this whole like standoff moment, in this like total like chest pumping moment. Maggie pulls up her camera and is now filming this. She's filming the reaction of her brother like coming to her rescue when clearly she doesn't need to be rescued, which is insulting in and of itself. But so she doesn't step in to stop it. She's filming it. Spruce is filming it, because even Ed is like, here, hold my glasses. Like, hold my glasses. I got to go thump my friend for macking on my sister.
Yeah.
And they start this like slap
fighting.
Dean comes in, breaks them apart. It's like, come on, you guys. Two people are missing. We gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
Like Ed walks away from this, gets his glasses back from Spruce, and he's like, I won that one, right? I won that.
My teeth, do you hear my teeth?
My teeth are okay.
But I
won. I won that.
Very
and
funny.
then of course Maggie like flips off Spruce for having filmed all that, or for having even like kind of egged them on
not even
with
stop. Yeah, just like didn't stop it or anything. Okay, so then we cut to where Sam and Corbett are. We don't know where, but there's like a party table. They are both strapped to chairs. Corbett is coming to at Sam's beckoning. He's kind of like, I don't want to say comforting Corbett, but kind of.
He was just
in
like,
the only way that he could, because he
which is look at me, focus on me.
Yeah,
don't look. I think he was trying to get him to not look around. He was just like, look at me, stay with me, stay with me.
It's okay.
And at the same time, there's that stupid song playing on a record player that it's my party in a dry fountain, which, by the way, if that's ever playing anywhere you're at, leave. It's never a good thing that this song is playing ever
No.
And it keeps playing the same, it keeps skipping on the same lyrics. So it's just I would shoot myself if
so as Corbett comes to, he's terrified, this poor kid.
And his camera is still on him. So
the handheld one he had somehow got on the table, like the ghost must have put it on the table, and it just happened to be pointing kind of up, like from the table up underneath. His head camera is the one that is pointing at Sam, because they're sitting right across from each other.
Okay, I just had them mixed. Okay.
So in these cameras, you can see Sam, struggling, both like, oh, fuck, there's nothing that I can do to help, because big scary ghost man is slowly and menacingly walking behind Corbett, or approaching Corbett, and like speaking in this, it was a very terrifying voice, because it wasn't like raspy or anything. It was just like, it was very low, like, kind of soft spoken, a subtle scariness.
Yeah, it wasn't a deep rumbly, it wasn't a menacing voice that way. It was just gross. It was just kind of a fake.
It gave eerie. It was really eerie.
Yeah.
And it gave you like a chill up your spine whenever he spoke. And also his slow movements. It wasn't anything jerky. It was just like, this is what, you know, he picks up something like pointy, like a poker or a...
I'm going to look like a giant screwdriver
or
or
rebar,
something.
something like that, yeah. Comes up behind Corbett. Corbett is terrified. Sam is like, it's okay.
Look at
He's
me,
both
it's okay, stay with me.
like comforting Corbett, but also begging this ghost guy, like, no, please don't.
To stop.
Please don't.
Don't
stop.
do this, don't do this.
But
he does.
This ghost takes this pokey thing and slowly impales Corbett through the neck from behind.
Yeah. Yeah, all the while saying, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. Don't worry.
It's okay. Don't worry. This is it will only, you know, it'll soon be over.
Yeah.
It won't hurt. And oh, poor Corbett. I mean, and we see this. We see Corbett, we see his face as this is happening to him.
Yeah. I would say this is one of the worst deaths I've seen on Supernatural so far, because you're so sympathetic. It's kind of like that that one guy we really liked in like night.
Oh, when he got shot in slow motion.
Yes, the Mandroids guy.
Mandroids, yeah.
And I can't remember his name. But
now.
you know, you just felt so bad seeing him die because you liked him, and even though we didn't get to see a lot of Corbett, he's a very sympathetic guy. You know, he's young, he's innocent, he's naive,
innocent. Yes.
And here he was like terrified, and it was just like this slow motion kind of thing, and you saw
the recognition on his face that this was happening to him. It was terrible. It was, as it wasn't gruesome in the sense of like that guy who like drinks Drano or whatever. Yeah, it was gruesome in the sense of it was so senseless and slow and deliberate.
Yeah. And Sam is helpless too. You know, he's just like, fuck. So, back at the main group, Dean is kind of talking out loud the profile of this ghost. He's like, okay, I need to find Sam. Where would he take Sam? He's lonely. He's paranoid. He's like a Cold War nut. Scared. Maybe he's got, you know, these types usually have a bomb shelter or something. Maybe there's one in the house, hidden.
Yep. Probably in the basement. We're gonna go. Yep. The group heads off to find the basement and find this bomb shelter. In the meantime, in the basement, this Daggett guy is now talking to Sam the way he was talking to Corbett. And even goes as far as to snap a party hat onto Sam's head. One of those little triangular cones.
Yes.
So now Sam is tied to a chair with a party hat jauntily, you know, attached to his head, and the guy's saying the same things, like, "Don't worry, it'll be over soon."
I know.
Ugh.
So then the group, when they find the basement, Dean and Spruce go in first, and then all of a sudden the door slams shut behind him.
And the group is like, "Hey guys, not funny."
Yeah.
And Dean's like, "Okay,
not
that's
me.
Not us. The thing did that. It wants us separated."
Yes.
You know, so Dean's still in parent mode.
Yeah.
Still, he's like, "All right, this is what we got to do now."
There's salt inside of my duffel bag. Make a circle of the salt and get inside. And I love that there's a beat, inside the duffel. That's salt, you idiots!
You want us to get inside your duffel bag? The longest beat, though, that was so amazing, because it wasn't just like beat. Your light was like beat.
And it's also like Harry and Ed looking at each other like,
should we ask?
Yes.
Is that what he really wants us to do? Is that get inside your duffel? Inside the salt. Okay, so they run off.
They do. They find the salt. They make a circle. The three of them get inside. Ed, Harry, and Maggie. Ed gives Harry blessing to do his sister.
Gross.
I know. And then,
which of course Maggie takes offense to too, which is great.
Right. And then another surge happens. You know, the flitching, the glitching, the temperature drop, and then another death echo appears, and it's Corbett.
And he's like choking, and he's crying, like whimpering, crying. Yeah. You know, he looks as terrified as he did when we just saw him.
Yeah. So then now the group is like, oh fuck, he's dead. You know, it's like, oh no, we didn't get him in time, which has to be like I can't imagine how that would feel.
Right.
So down
So
in the basement,
meantime,
Spruce and Dean are doing shit, you know.
Dean almost has a confessional moment. Like Spruce is kind of asking him
He's getting
questions.
nosy. Yeah, he's like, you said
Yeah,
something about like the 2 months thing. What's that about?
And Dean starts to say something, and then he's like, "No, I'm not. No,
Yeah, nope.
I'm not doing this." Which I thought was pretty funny. And then they start to hear that party music, that stupid party song. Dean's like, okay, he's behind this wall. There's a giant like metal cabinet in the way. Dean struggles but manages to like shove it out of the way. And I love like you hear like you hear Spruce say, "Wow, you're strong." Dean, shut up.
Yeah, think you could help instead of shooting the camera, you know?
Yeah, and he flips him off. That's the other thing. He keeps asking about like, why don't you just put the camera down?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, nope, I feel better holding the camera. Yeah. So now we see Sam again. The guy is coming up behind him with that
the
same
sharp,
pokey
pointy
thing. Luckily, Dean bursts in and shoots the ghost with his, salty shotgun. And unties Sam. I don't know what to call it. It's a shotgun that shoots.
I love that. I love it. Salty shotgun. I like that a lot.
While Dean is untying Sam, Spruce is in there, and now we see more of the horror that Sam was trying to protect Corbett from. There's at this table. There's at least 4 other people, dead people in various states of decomposition.
Yeah.
Sitting at this table with noisemakers in their mouths, with party hats on. The table is littered with like confetti and old
rotten
cake,
food,
and it's everything. Yeah, and it's this disgusting death party.
Yes, and then Spruce is like panning across the table, and he finally comes across Corbett,
and he's like, "Oh, Corbett."
Yeah, I felt like he was not upset enough to see his friend and workmate tortured to murdered. Death.
But he did sounded sad. But given everything he had just seen, maybe it was just one more layer of
right. I mean, he's a dry guy anyway, from what we can tell, but.
The guy who shaves his face and not his neck and chin, you know?
Okay, so as they're like making their way out of the bomb shelter, Sam reveals that Daggett was so lonely that he threw himself a birthday party and brought bodies from the morgue because those are the only people that would show up, and then overdosed on horse tranquilizers. Tranquilizers. How do you know this? Well, he told me.
He told me. In the meantime, upstairs, the Ghostfacers are literally singing their own theme song to help
in the fetal position.
Yes,
they're like rocking in the fetal
themselves.
Position.
They're singing their Ghostfacer theme song. But Corbett shows up again.
Yeah.
And so they see him again suffering and crying. And they say to themselves, to each other, like, we have to get him out of his loop. They recognize him for being in a death loop.
Yeah.
We have to get him out. We have to release him.
Yeah. And Ed is the one that's just like, no, we got to do it. We got to do it. We got to step out of the salt, even though they told us not to, you know.
Yeah.
And he braves stepping out of the salt, tries to speak to Corbett, you know, chickens out for a minute, runs back in the circle. And then Harry is like, no, you know how you got to get to him? That guy was in love with you. He had feelings for you. You know what you got to do. You got to go be gay for that poor dead intern. And Harry does it. You know, he walks out the salt. He goes up and he's just like, listen, you mean so much to me. You know, just pours out his heart and then confesses his love to him. And that's what snaps Corbett out of it. Yep. You know, like Harry's crying. He's like, I'm so sorry that we did this to you. And
and Corbett slowly turns his head and sees him.
Yeah.
He like snaps out of his death loop and he sees him and he's like, Ed?
Yeah.
You know, so they're both crying.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, hey, Corbett. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, bud. I'm so sorry, but we really need your help.
You need to help us.
Yeah.
We really need your help. And so down in the basement, Daggett
Well, I
shows
want to
up.
take just a second, if it's okay, to because before, like in the beginning of this, when they're doing their little making the band stuff, like loading up the stuff, and Corbett's going on and on about how Ed is like, oh, he's just got this like ruggedness about him, and he's just like a leader, and Harry's just like, you know, Corbett's got the hots for Ed, and I think it's going to be a problem for the team. And there was nothing I felt. I can only speak as, you know, a straight-ish woman. Looking at this, there wasn't anything really homophobic about it. It wasn't like, ew, he's so, like, ugh, I can't, like, it's so gross that he's got feelings for Ed. It was more just like, this is going to be trouble that, you know, one of the employees is in love with the boss.
Right, exactly. That's how I thought it too. I didn't see it as,
and then when Harry's just
gay,
like, you got to go, like, be in love with him, and there wasn't anything like, ew, that's icky, I don't want to pretend like I'm in love with the guy. You know, there was nothing about it. It was just like,
no, it was just misunderstanding. It's like, well, what do you mean he wants something from me? And it wasn't in a gross way. It was like, I don't understand.
It was just like, oh, I didn't get that from him, but okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really nice. It was really nice, especially since we've seen a lot of homophobic things from Sam and Dean. Like whenever they're assumed to be a gay couple,
Sam gay.
Which I get when you're like, I think if it was your brother, you know, we would kind of elicit that reaction. You know, even if it was like a brother sister, right? And they're like, oh, you guys lovers? Ew, no, you know. But But even so, they make fun of like, oh, you're such a girl, you know, what are you? Implying that you got to be gay to like fairy tales or what have you.
Right. And that makes you weak. Yeah,
that these little dweebs here are like, oh, it's no big deal, you know, go be gay to help him out of the echo, you know?
Exactly.
Great, I'll do it. I'm not going to complain about it, and didn't complain about it after. So
it wasn't.
I just want to give a little clap to these.
It was well done.
Okay, so back in the world,
basement.
There's been another surge going on. You know, Spruce is like, oh, hey guys, something's happening, and he's been attacked, I think. This was all like kind of interchanged between like
there's a couple, that he's appeared and shoved people around and disappeared again.
Dean shot him with the rock salt, gave like a little rock salt lecture to Spruce when he's just like, what's that? Is bullets real? What's going on? But anyway, so there's been some struggle, and Daggett has, in fact, cornered all of them because he is very powerful.
Yep.
This guy. He's like shoved Sam and Dean off to the back, and he's like in it for Spruce.
Yep, he's headed for Spruce.
And then all of a sudden, there's another little surge, and then Ghost Corbett shows up behind Daggett and tackles this motherfucker.
Runs at him. And like does almost like that pirate Ghost where they smashed together and became water.
Yeah.
Except this was like they smashed together and became this like tornado of
like
pixels.
Wind, light, smoke, stuff.
Of like TV pixels.
This was clever because, you know, obviously these cameras are not like high movie quality, like in the realm of the reality show. And it's also dark. You know, I think some of them are in night vision.
Yep.
They could fake out some special effects, you know? It's like, oh, like it's too bright for this camera to catch, and it's just like this blurred out, overexposed. So
we don't really know. Yeah.
Like, well,
but
nice.
it did have these like snatches of color though.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which I liked because I don't remember. I don't know. This is just me asking. Were you ever old enough that TV channels actually turned off after a certain time? Like it wasn't 24-hour TV. So like if you were watching, let's just say CBS, after a certain time, after the last TV show aired that night, the screens went to a test pattern.
Oh yeah, those like color block stripe
color
things.
blocks. That's what I keep seeing. Are those like little tiny color blocks within this?
Yeah. I don't think that was ever, I don't really ever remember that. It always went to like infomercials or something, like something that no one ever, or telethons that no one ever wanted to watch. It's just like, oh, there's nothing entertaining on anymore. I'll just turn it off. So anyway, after this like burst of overexposed light, the two ghosts disappear. It's quiet. You know, all that's left are Sam and Dean kind of beat up, and Spruce still filming throughout this whole thing. And okay, that's that.
So now we go back to the narration and voiceover
Yes.
that Ed and Harry were doing at the very beginning
Yes.
of their
it's the closing
episode.
shots, the epilogue of the show. Over this like very serious and dramatic closing monologue, there's shots of like the crew exiting the house in sunrise. You know, they're all kind of given that look
Tired.
of, wow, we all went through something together. That was intense. And you see Sam and Dean give their contact information to Ed and Harry. And even in the voiceover, they even said, you know, started off as enemies and then ended up with allies or something to that effect.
Right. We lost friends, but we gained allies or something like that. You know, something trivial about dismissing the, you know, death of Corbett.
Yeah, they dismiss it for a minute, and then after they, you know, kind of wrap up the storyline of the ghost, then they kind of go into this very long, flowery tribute to Corbett. You know, like, in the end, you know, we thought that we could teach you, and in the end, you taught us. And a bunch of one-liners of that nature.
You said, you taught us that gay love can pierce the veil of death and save the day.
Oh my God, I missed that. I missed it or I forgot it. That's amazing. And they are back in their opening shots of like their tux smoking jacket
chairs.
Things. Yes.
Yeah. And I love that they're like you said, is all flowery, and they're trying to give a speech that they don't know what it is they're talking about.
No, and it's like they're trying to like one up each other, kind of. They just keep going back and forth. It never ends. And
go well into that starry night, young Turk. It's like, what?
And they do like a Ronald Reagan impression or something?
Yeah.
Someone does, or they do this, and then he goes into it's John F. Kennedy, I think, because it's that weird affected New England accent that.
Oh, that must have been Kennedy about war changes people, war changes men.
War changes man, and one woman.
And Maggie.
And then it ends with kind of a throwback of Corbett, a Corbett confessional. You know, him saying,
in the van,
I think that this night is going to change our lives, or all our dreams are going to come true. Does that sound stupid?
Lame?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, well.
Yep. And I love that they cut it, you know, with him with that goofy face. It's like just at the wrong time. You know, it's just the wrong image to end with.
I know.
But I also love that inside that van, it's clearly a copier maintenance van, because they've got like Xerox maintenance.
Kinko's.
I
just thought of that. That's amazing.
Yep. All inside the van was all copier. Yep, it was all copier parts and copier manuals and
amazing
copier humor.
Yeah. And then they close with, you know, Corbett's name, like
in memory,
in loving memory of Corbett. You know, died 2008, King of the Impossible, and that's it. And then it's revealed that this is an episode that it's a taping that they are showing Sam and Dean. This is like a celebratory viewing of the episode. And Sam and Dean are just kind of there in disbelief at what they just saw for various amounts of reasons.
Which explains, though, by the way, how they were in the first part of the episode.
Yes. I also really liked that they started to put the actual show credits.
Yes, now they start to run the Supernatural credits over this. So we're seeing the title credits of Supernatural.
Yes, starring Jared Padalecki, written by Ben Edlund, all of that, all of that. And I like that touch. That was a very, very nice touch. And I hope that they continue to do stuff like this in the future in order to not spoil things. Because remember, you said with the trickster,
actor's name totally spoils it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure there are like contract things that prevent that from happening. Like, no, you got to have it within the first blah blah of the episode.
Right. I need my own title card, or it needs to be special guest.
Within you know, in the beginning of the show, I know there's a whole like union thing with that. I don't know specifically, but it was nice that they did it this way, because it really added to it did not yet break the fourth wall until that moment. Okay. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly.
No. No, you're absolutely right, because part of the thing that kept in the back of my head during this episode is, how are we seeing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was something that kept kind of pulling me out of the episode, is like, how am I viewing this?
Yeah.
Because I was like, I even wrote down found footage. Like, is this like, that would be the Blair Witch aspect of it?
Right.
Was this found footage?
Mm-hmm.
But what we learned later is no.
Yeah.
So Sam and Dean are, they're back in the Ghostfacers garage. They're being shown this episode, this edited version of that night.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean says, well, it was half awesome, which the Ghostfacers
is full
take
on
is
good.
like, full on good. But Sam, I wrote this one down. Sam says, it's bizarre how you're able to honor Corbett's memory while grossly exploiting the manner of his death. Well done. I'm like, exactly, all the wrong moments to highlight and exploit.
Yeah.
And they did.
They did. We also see we also see very quickly just the camera focusing on Dean, like either picking something up or putting something down underneath the desk of the monitors in which they're sitting. So you're like, okay, what's that all about? And then the boys get up and, they're like, I think this is maybe a bad idea, because I know this is true, but, we've learned that if you give the truth, then people are just going to think you're super crazy.
Or punch you in the face.
Yeah. Ghostfacers don't care. Yeah, they're just like, you're just jealous.
Yeah.
Well,
and
all right. You're right.
You guys got this one.
Yeah.
Sam and Dean leave. And is it Eddie's like, dicks. And everyone's like, yeah, they're dicks. And we're like, we got a whole lot of DVDs to burn. So they all set to getting ready to, process all this footage.
Yep. And then someone finds that bag that the camera had focused on. And they're like, oh, someone left their dance bag here. Wonder what's inside. And then they snoop inside the duffel bag and pull out this crazy looking device.
Giant electromagnet.
Yeah. It looks, to me, it looked like it's like TNT. Yeah. It looked like this sticks of dynamite wrapped around something. Right. And they're like fondling it. They're like, what is this? This is interesting. And at the same time, all of their monitors and stuff just start going on the fritz.
Yep, glitch. And then like, wait, what? No operating system found. What? No. So you see Sam and Dean now outside walking to the car, and you can hear the commotion inside the house of them going, no.
Yes, and they're like, well, that's our cue that it worked.
Yep, the world wasn't ready for Ghostfacers. Too bad it's that thing wiped out their hard drives and all their tapes.
I know. Which I felt kind of bad, because that must have taken a lot of work. Like you said, like editing that episode, like for a bunch of amateurs or, or not professionals, that must have taken a really long time.
Yep. So the final shot is the Impala peeling out and driving away, but to the sound of the Ghostfacers theme song, like they're rocking out as they drive away. I loved it. I loved that episode. I thought it was great. One thing that Ghost Hunters used to do at the end of their episodes was they did a sit down with the homeowner or whoever called them in, and did showed them either the footage of what they found or what they didn't find. Yeah. And either way, I always felt like it left a level of comfort for the person who hired them. I was like, and I always thought that was a nice touch. And so they made it seem like all their adventures were for the homeowner, for the person who was being, as opposed to sensationalizing everything for their own profit and gain, which Ghostfacers clearly did. It was all about for them. Yeah.
I think even Dean says like, oh, the show had its moments. And I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I like this episode. I don't care what anyone says. You can fight me all you want, fandom. I enjoy it, and I will not be skipping this episode as part of
people say they would skip it?
Yeah, because I feel like every show has those episodes that you're just like, you know what? I've seen it. Didn't care
don't
for
need to
it.
see it again.
I don't need
Yeah.
to see it again. Parks and
Yeah.
Rec, one of my favorite shows. There are definitely a couple episodes that I'm like, if I'm in a, rewatch for the 32nd
You'll
time, I'm like,
skip the next.
I
Yeah.
don't really like that episode. Let's
Yeah.
just move on. I'm
No, I
sure
thought it
there are
was
some,
great.
like Supernatural, right? You would probably skip Bugs or Route 666,
Yeah.
right? At this,
Yep.
at this point in our, thorough, deep rewatch.
Yes, having detailed how much I don't like those episodes.
Exactly.
Yes, I
Exactly.
am.
And
I know where I stand.
I'm sure there are more to come, that if it were on TV, you'd just be like, eh.
Oh, there's so many.
Right. I mean,
There's so many.
327 episodes.
Right.
There's bound to be a few that you don't want to watch.
I did not love every single one of the Supernatural episodes. So, but this was not one of the ones I did not love. I loved it. I thought it had great moments. It still had character, it still gave us information about Sam and Dean and the timeline. It was great to see them interact as the adults
in the room.
In the room. They still saved the kids, they were still the heroes. They saved the Ghostfacers.
Or as many as they could.
As many as they could once they figured out what was happening.
They didn't leave them to die. It's like once they found them, they were already trying to save them. They were like, we got to go great. We'll explain everything to you outside. We'll explain everything to you with ice cream. Let's go. And when one of them was lost, they didn't leave them behind. They're like, okay, we'll go help you look for this guy.
And when they got separated, go stand in the salt. They took care of them the whole way, which is what heroes do. Yes,
and it's nice to have a little bit of levity with, the dorks that are Ed and Harry, and those actors have such great chemistry with each other. And I thought the four of them had great chemistry, and they all love working with each other. There's interviews where they're just like, man, this episode was such a blast, because we got to like improv, we got to just kind of say what we wanted. It was also great. Like Jared and Jensen both said that because the filming was part of the actor's responsibility, there wasn't a lot of you have to go here to hit your mark, you have to find your light, you have to, all of the actory things that you have to do on set. There wasn't a lot of focus on that. So it was just like you could just focus on the performance, and if you ran into somebody, it was okay. It wasn't like, that's not part of your blocking, or you screwed up the angle of the shot. It was it's supposed to be a little real. And so they're like, that was great, because it was like so many levels of pressure off.
Just taken off them. Yeah. Same thing with the lighting. There was just enough lighting to light them, but the flashlights made it, if they did get hit with a flashlight, it just made it that much better. But even if they didn't, it was okay. No, I thought it was fun, and I definitely didn't feel like when I saw Blair Witch, I was one of those people who was nauseated by how shaky the cameras were. It was just too long, too much. I didn't feel that way with this one. I think they leveled it out. They sparsed it with steady cam enough that you weren't just in motion the entire time. I love the fact that the Supernatural, like Sam and Dean, ran into people who were excited about the Supernatural, but didn't know enough about it.
It's like they were aware of the world, the underbelly of supernatural stuff, so they didn't have to do the truth is out there talk, but they did have to be like, okay, that's not the truth, this is the truth.
And that truth is actually pretty scary, so let's so I liked that.
Okay, so our next one is Long Distance Call.
I think I remember this one.
I don't at all, and I haven't watched it yet, so
I won't spoil it for you.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you for being patient while we were on hiatus. We really, really appreciate it. Please subscribe to us, follow us, rate us anywhere you can find podcasts and they allow you to rate. That would be great. You can also find us on YouTube, at least the past several episodes. You can also find us on social media. We are at Salt and Burn This everywhere. And that's it. Yeah, just, if you have any questions, we'll answer them on air. Am I too desperate there asking for that?
That actually was, a little across the line for Sammy.
I want to keep it.
All right.
I don't care. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week for Long Distance Call. Bye.
Bye.